Hi, I'm Arceel, and welcome to my presentation on the Assamites of Vampire the Masquerade. Little opening note, because of the sort of themes of Vampire, I'm trying something new where I'm making the background darker and having the text be white plus a few extra colors depending on the clan. I don't know how it's going to look, so if it doesn't look great, say something and I'll change it back to normal for the next ones. So who are the Assamite? So the most common sort of caste of the Assamite are known as the warrior caste. They're basically assassins. You do work for money or some form of payment. This is generally how other kindreds see them, but there's more to it than just that. So there are three main castes. Of course, you have the warriors who are the most prevalent, but there's also the sorcerers and the viziers who are sort of like scholars. As a clan, the Assamite sort of idealize themselves with three main tenets of wisdom, sorcery, and diablerie. Even though in the greater sphere of kindred, diablerie is seen as a very bad, heinous action, but for the Assamite, for them, it makes them closer to who they believe to be their progenitor, Haqim, and it's sort of just a ritual thing that they do. There's a very big focus on hierarchies and hierarchical importance in Assamite society. Of course, we've seen the castes with the warriors, viziers, and sorcerers, and that's part of it. When it comes to Assamite embracing, a few of the things they're looking for: anyone who's subservient, who can further the clan or their sire's goals, which seems to go for most vampires. An Assamite has to prove themselves after the embrace, usually through combat, and that initial stage can go on for, say, 14 years, and then you have to serve your sire for another 14 years afterwards. Being obsessive is also one of the main traits that the Assamite apparently look for. Another minor note is that someone who has great knowledge on some sort of niche topic also seems to be targeted a lot. Because of a few of their traits, generally, the majority of Assamite are independent. However, there is a fair share in both the Camarilla and the Sabbat. They've had a few revisions in the 5th edition of Vampire the Masquerade, the most notable being they had their name changed to the Banu Haqim, which, as from earlier, Hakim is their progenitor, allegedly. Something that the book makes note of is that one way you could see it is that the Banu Haqim is what they've always been known as. That's sort of like their names for themselves. But a lot of people who aren't in the clan, who are less knowledgeable, may call them the Assamite instead. While they have a thirst for vampiric blood as the old Assamite, they also have this strange knack for justice, or what they see as justice. They're now also known as judges, and they try and exert their form of order on everyone else because they see the world as sort of unright. While a Banu Hakim may join up with, say, the Khmer or Sabbat, they are not necessarily saying that they agree with their politics by being part of the sect. So there's a few things that you get for being the blood of the Assamite. Your disciplines include celerity, that is super vampire speed. In the V20 version, celerity just adds to all of your dexterity checks. You can also use celerity to gain extra actions in combat, though that does make it so you can't use that celerity for your dexterity. There's obfuscate, vampire sneakiness. While a lot of it does have to do with being more stealthy and just blending into shadows, you also get some weird, wacky extra abilities, such as being able to change the way you're perceived by other people around you, or even just not being perceived at all. Then finally there's quietus, which is a little strange. There's not a overarching sort of theme to it. It's very unique to the Assamite. The first rank that you get, you can just make the area around you completely dead silent, so that no sound within this sort of aura around you is made. But beyond that, a lot of it just has to do with turning your blood into a weapon. You can coat your weapons in it. You can spit at people. There's this one called Dagon's Call, I think, where you can just start making someone take damage remotely. And for the weapon coating and the blood spit, it does aggravated damage, so it's even more potent than most forms of attack. As for their weakness, they have a blood curse, I believe, put on them by the Tremere, and this makes it so that when you try and drink blood from other vampires, you take damage, and Diablerie also results in aggravated damage. The real curse is that you also have to tithe your profits from any of your contracts to your sires or your superiors. But yeah, this kind of puts a damper on one of the main things that the Assamite tried to do. For the V5 revisions, you used to have Celerity, you used to have Obfuscate, but now you get Blood Sorcery. This feels like a Tremere thing. I don't know the lore reason for this. I guess this is a thing that maybe the Sorcerer cast would also get. The way it works in V5 is you don't get a lot of actual abilities, but you can get blood rituals that you can do now. Celerity also works a little differently, but overall it's the same sort of idea. Same goes for Obfuscate. Now your weakness is Bloodthirst, completely opposite of what they used to have. Drinking blood from other vampires results in a hunger frenzy. And if you can't break out of that hunger frenzy, this could potentially cause you to even commit Diablerie on that vampire, which wouldn't be great. You also have a variant weakness called Noxious Blood, where instead of going into a hunger frenzy when feeding, now whenever a mortal tries to feed on your blood, or, drinks it, they take aggravated damage, and your blood also can't be used to heal mortals. Other kindred, on the other hand, suffer no side effects from drinking your blood. V5 also introduces compulsions for when you go into a frenzy. Potentially, you could go into this compulsion called Judgment, where you have to slake your hunger from someone who acts against your convictions, whether they're a personal or more clan-associated conviction, or else you're going to be suffering a 3 dice penalty to all of your rolls for the rest of the scene. Overall, that was the Assamites. Mainly assassins who simply work for blood money and nothing else to most people, but they do have a pretty cool culture underneath all of that. Doing a complete 180 on the clan weakness going from V20 to V5 was interesting, and I quite enjoyed their sort of aesthetic being sort of Middle Eastern and African. I think that's pretty cool. Extra note that I forgot to put into here, the Assamite actually get darker upon getting older, unlike most other vampires, where they'll get paler. An extra thing that I didn't know if it was important or not to put into this, because it's only relevant for V20, and that is if you go down a path of power other than humanity, the Assamite actually have a unique one to themselves called the Path of Blood. Don't remember exactly what it's all about, but I thought that was also cool. Anyhow, if you have more information that you would like to add in the comments about the Assamite, or just share your thoughts, opinions, or maybe some stories you have about playing them, go ahead and put that down in the comments. Well, that's it. Bye-bye!